In this video I would like to show how to work with logins, user levels in SpiderControl Web-HMI. In this test project I will insert first of all a login macro. We have two different types of login macros. These macros are able to manage up to 4 passwords and user levels. The first type of macro, which we'll take now, is able to store these passwords in the HMI project, and the second group is able to store the passwords in data points in the SCADA server, so we can change them during runtime. We'll insert the first type and we'll now enter the passwords, which will be modified to hash codes when we press the respective button on the right. We will enter the passwords PW1, PW2, 3 and 4. I make the hash codes so the password is not in a readable form. This is the container variable, the local container variable, which will store the user level, which is according to the password 1, 2, 3 or 4. I also have buttons in this macro which will become active when the password is correct, and I will indicate here the link which will jump to the first page of my project. And the second button is the log out button, which will clear the password and which would jump to the login page. So this is our macro for the login page. I make it build all and we'll send it to the SCADA server. So now we will reload the Web-HMI. This is our macro. When I enter PW1, the start button will appear and I can jump to my first page of my project and do interactions with it. Next thing I would like to show is how I can use this user level information and make the control or parts of it visible or active and inactive. To do so, I will now select the group, and starting from user level 1 the bar graph will be visible, or starting from user level 2 the object is visible but you cannot operate it, and with user level 3 you can operate everything. So I have opened this crossref dialog and will set common hide condition. So if user level is lesser than 2, the object will hide, and the next thing is if user level is less than 3, the object will be disabled. So next thing is build and download. And download of the HMI to the SCADA server. And reload the project. So I enter as user 1 PW1 and we see the bar graph is visible but not the rest. I will change to PW2, and we see the objects are visible but disabled. I cannot operate it on. Now we go for user level 3, PW3, and we can see that we can also operate now the controls. So next thing, I would like to show the other macro which stores the passwords as variables inside the SCADA server. So for this we need two macros. First thing, we add the login macro. Instead of the passwords, we define here the PPO variables. We can use the default settings here because these default variables are persistent variables inside the SCADA server, so they are stored on the file system. Respectively, it will store the hash code inside the server, and we will also modify the same settings for the start page and for the logout option. Okay, now we need the second macro, which will enable us to change the passwords during runtime. We'll enter that also to the login page to make it easier to show, but later on, of course, you would like to have them at some other place where the user can change the passwords, which is logically not the login page. So the PPO references that we have here, the variables, should be the same as in the first macro that we entered, which is also the default. So we're now set. We make a build and download again to send this HMI to the SCADA server. And download. And reload. Okay, so first thing, of course, we have to enter the passwords. The update function will create the hash code and write it down to the SCADA, to the file system. We make PW3, enter, and PW4, and update. So now the passwords are available, and I can try my login. I will enter PW1, and we are now online.